So hopefully he can get a few games under his belt and then try and get something round together. Next, moving on, man up top, Skipovic. What are your thoughts on him?
I watched the game and I wasn't either impressed or upset. He was marginally offsides for the goal for the one he stuck in the back of the net. So that shows me he can finish. Obviously he can finish. He scored a bunch of goals. So I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no. I think the Twitter hype was still, even though Skipovic played okay. I think still the Twitter hype was even more. The money was still on Guidetti. Oh my God, he came on and it was like the best thing ever. And I don't know what the story with that is. I don't understand why one would like one over the other as of right now, because neither one has done anything really, really great so far. So
I think it's because of the pedigree of being at Manchester City and also Feyenoord, where they're two pretty big clubs, whereas First Division Spain doesn't sound as glamorous. I've got to tell you, if we can kind of slightly slide on to Guidetti, we'll go back to Skipovic. I've got friends who are Feyenoord fans, and they did get in touch with me via Twitter. And when the second we signed him, we're like, "You've got a hell of a player in your hands. He is." They love him there. They absolutely love the man at Feyenoord. They want him back. And what is it? 20 goals in 22 games. A lot of those were actually penalties. You can say what you want about that, but he looks like a reasonably good all-round striker. He can head the ball. He can shoot. He's got a bit of a physical presence about the guy. It's been a while since we've had that type of player. So are you not
it's been a
excited?
while since we had somebody who I wasn't worried about missing a penalty.
I don't know. I think the second you pull on a Celtic jersey, you just automatically start missing penalties, and then like
Oh, don't even say that.
if you left the club, you just suddenly become brilliant at penalties again because
I,
Celtic
I
just
still
have
I
a
still remember my asshole filling up and splitting into two when Commons hit the bar against. I remember that in the Champions League game.
yeah. I think it's just
Oh
because
Jesus Christ,
who was that?
Moscow.
Moscow.
That was against Moscow. Yeah,
Yeah.
hit the bottom of the bar and goes in. I remember shitting myself right there and go, "Oh my God, I couldn't watch it either."
Do you think it's maybe like
Remember Lennon leaning over, going, he couldn't watch his back was to the field.
yeah, I think it's maybe just a case where we actually get hee-haw penalties, so we suddenly get one. We're like, fucking hell, we've got a penalty. What the fuck do I do with this? How do I take these again? What's going on? So,
Exactly.
so yeah,
So that's a good thing. I'd let him. I'd have him on the field just to take all the penalties. I mean, if he's that money all the time, then to me that's worth every penny, because I haven't seen someone at Celtic in the last couple of years, take. I mean, Commons has done really well, but even still, I mean, just kind of like wow, just worried. But now that you got somebody who can do it, that makes me happy.
I'm excited about Guidetti. I think it's been a while since I've been excited about strikers or any player coming to Celtic due to a couple of seasons of just absolute horrible signings for Celtic. I like the guy. He seems like he's got a bit of personality. Have you seen all the stuff with him singing and dancing for Feyenoord on the on YouTube and stuff?
He's going to give Adam Matthews a run for his money, isn't
He is. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm actually over the moon that we've brought two strikers in and got rid of Balde and Pukki. I don't think the jury's obviously out because these guys haven't scored any goals and haven't really just had one game for us. But on paper, Guidetti and Skipovic, getting them in and getting rid of Balde and Pukki, that's got to be an upgrade, hasn't it?
Oh gosh, really? That you're gonna ask that question?
I mean, it's got
Wow.
to. I mean, goes without saying.
Golly.
You could say, like, I know nothing about Skipovic. I mean, can anyone really claim to watch First Division Spanish football? But if you think about it, because I remember thinking someone raised the point, and I was like, oh, it's only First Division Spanish football. And they're like, aye, but the Spanish league's better than the English league. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe you're right. And because, like, if
Well,
someone.
not even that. But look at what they look at the difference. If I just put Guidetti against Pookie, immediately Guidetti wins because he's willing to touch another man. Doesn't make him gay. It just means he's willing to go ahead and touch another man and put a body on him and win the ball back. That's A.
That's going to be the quote of the year.
To me, Pookie seems like every man. He's Superman. And every man is made, and a defender is made out of Krypton, and he's afraid to go near him because he gets weak and falls down. That's just me. On the flip side, Skipovic controlled the ball really, really well a couple times, a couple backheel passes, things like that. And I know for a fact, I mean, I don't care how many wonder goals Amito Balde scores in Belgium. I really don't care. The man can't dribble unless he's looking like a newborn baby deer on ice. He's got zero physical ability. I mean, he's just not athletic. He doesn't look it. I
Baldy.
mean, obviously, in order to play, professional football, you have to have some athleticism, but you just don't see it in him, do you?
Baldy, no, I think the only thing he did have was being a bit of an athlete. I thought he looked like he could run pretty well, and he looked a bit of a physical unit.
Dribble?
But he couldn't trap a
Give the
bag.
ball away every time.
He couldn't trap a bag of sand. Like, you know what I mean? But no,
Yeah, no time.
I tell you what, there's one thing that Guidetti and Skapovic seem to have, which Balde and Pukki did not have in any game for Celtic: confidence. It looks like they have confidence. A Celtic striker needs to go out thinking that he's going to score a hat-trick in every single game he plays in. And then he should be pissed at himself when he doesn't. That's the kind of, like, when guys like Larsson and Sutton and Hartson and that were going about, they just thought they were going to steamroll everybody, and I want to see that out of strikers. I want to see them just like fighting for goals. I think Gary Hooper had that a wee bit about himself. I don't see that.
Of course,
yeah.
I get that.
So,
but it was easier. It was easier. All he had to do was beat Carlos Bocanegra for Rangers, and it was easy for him to get past him. That old slow motherfucker. Anyway, so let me ask you this. So now that we have these guys, what do we do now? Now that we know we got rid of Pukki and Baldy, the big ones, what do we do now with Griffiths and Stokes?
Well, this is the thing. I've wrote this list down about how do we accommodate these players, right? So here's the list of kind of forward role players we've got. So either a striker or a winger attacking midfield player who would play. We're assuming that Ronnie wants to play 4-2-3-1, or some form of 4-3-3, where we've got Guidetti, Skapovic, Commons, McGregor, Tonev, with Sacco, who's not played yet, obviously. Then we've got your man Griffiths and Stokes. We've also got Forrest. We've got Berget, Bo Richter, obviously, a legend. And we also have Johansson, who's kind of been playing in that attacking midfield role, sometimes a bit later on in games he did against Aberdeen anyway, and he's been doing that in Europe. So there's only really 4 spots there, and there's what? 5,
you
6,
still have
7,
and you still have
8,
Bruni.
9, 10,
And
11, 12.
you're missing Bruni.
Well, I wouldn't really count him in that. I'd say that like you've got if you've got the 4-2-3-1, he would definitely be in the 2. So at the moment, I'd assume the 2 is Johansson and Brown. But in Europe, Johansson's been playing as part of the 3 rather than the 2.
Yes.
But to accommodate, right, we'll just take it as a matter of fact, which isn't true, that Johansson and Brown will play the 2. Now, if that's the case, you've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 players going into 4 spots. That's including James Forrest, who's out probably for quite a while.
Yeah, so, and then you have for those 2 spots, you still have Kyle, and you still have until he has Mulgrew
and Beton. Well, I think that's quite good competition for those 2 spots. Hopefully, I'd like to see Beton come into a bit of form. He's always looked a bit of a player, but then he's never really had any consistency to kind of nail down a spot. But
he hasn't had a run. He hasn't had a run of games either. But, injury and everything else.
You've got to think that Skapovic you forked out 2.3 million. Is that the figure? 2.3, something like that. It wasn't it?
Somewhere there, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to think he's going to start for 2.3 million, which is good money to us these days. You've also got Guidetti. I mean, is this a case of are they going to play one up front, or are they going to convert to a 4-4-2, or how is this going to work? Because they both look like the kind of number 9 players, where they're both strikers. They're not. We've had years and years at the club of buying all these non-strikers, these
interchangeable parts,
interchangeable forwards that kind of float outside the box and make those runs in. And now we've got two guys that look like they want to be inside the box. I might be getting that horribly wrong, but from the very little I've seen of both of them, that looks like the positions they're going to be in. I love that. I love having competition for that role. But what do you think? I mean, are we going to play both of them, or is it going to be one and then rotating, or what?
Yeah, I think that they'll probably rotate those 2, and then you throw in Stokesy for a rotation for that number 9 jersey. I think is what's going to end up happening there.
Can I just say, see if we've got Guidetti and Skapovic, and they're both competing for a number 9 spot. Stokes can fuck right off. I'm really sorry. The only place I can see Stokes play is like a supporting role. He's not the man. I think we knew this before. People were already complaining. He's not the get in the box guy. He never really wants to be there. He's always drifts outside. He's a support man. People go on about him playing well with Hooper as a support character. I don't really see him as a number 9. I see him potentially in the 3 of the in the 2-3-1, kind of one behind the front man or out wide. I just don't see him as a number 9. But I tell you what, like, it's been a while since we've had real competition for strikers. Like Guidetti, you've got to think these guys they're of good pedigree, hopefully, and they seem to have scored quite a lot of goals to the clubs that they've been with. So, do you really think they're gonna put one on the bench? Is that? I mean, you seem to think you're rotating them. Is there any way we could kind of wedge them into the same team, go to a 4-4-2, or is that totally going against Ronnie's philosophy?
I guess you do, but I mean, where do you put Jamesy? Where do you put Wakaso? Where do you put these people?
I suppose it's a really good situation to have when you're
Oh,
looking
I'm
at
not
it.
complaining.
I'm not complaining at all. I feel like the kid that like asked for something at Christmas and then my parents got divorced and they've both bought me it and I keep it quiet and I've got two presents. You know what I mean? Like Guidetti, Skopovic, I never thought we'd get bricking it at one point, thinking we were going to get nothing. We ended up with two seems to be quality strikers. Tonev and Masako, I'm really surprised we got both of them, especially because they're both left-sided wingers. Because Tonev's left-footed, so is Wakaso. I thought they were maybe going to have a right and a lefty, but maybe going to invert one, play Wasako in the right, have him charge in. We've also
Well,
got
if Tonez can both use both feet, then he would probably be the one to go over.
yeah, probably 2-footed.
But you know what? You know what? Something. You know what's interesting about this? Let me move this forward a little bit. Let me go over to one thing that I think that you're getting into with this conversation. I want to add a layer on top of that,
Go for
and
it.
that is Lawwell coming out and having the interview with everyone else. And to be fair, what's his name? The guy from Celtic TV. I actually tweeted him a couple different times, and he actually responded and said it was his answers, his questions that he didn't know, that Lawwell didn't know what he's going to say. Kenny Mackay had said that, tweeted back to me, and fair play to him for him to answering those questions and all that stuff. That's great. But you know what though? What he said, what his answers were, Lowell's answers were, versus what we're talking about here. We can see what I had mentioned earlier about loans versus buying. We can take these loans, see if they work. If not, get rid of them. If we can, we'll keep them. That type of stuff. But that's not my point here. My point here is this. My point here is that in Lawwell's defense, and I'm not defending about anything. I'm in his defense. Defense he made was that he had purchased, he had put money into Lustig to re-sign. He had put money, into getting Gordon in to come in. I get it. He had put money into, Miku and Lasad and Balde and Pookie and all this going on. Okay, he put a ridiculous amount of money in there. And yes, if he had actually bought, instead of buying two of them, bought one, a little different, maybe it would have been a little different, the whole thing. The supporters wanted strikers. We've got one for two point something. We sold Watt for one. We'll probably sell Pookie and the other ones, and get some money back for those, and Baldy for some money. I don't want to say that, Lawwell has his own problems, but I will say this: the issue that I see here, as you know, my wife, her parents are farmers, and I mean literal like Iowa farmers, and there are times when I talk with her about, and her dad's here. And when I talk to him, it's always the one thing he's worried about is what's the weather. And he can't be too far from vacation. On vacation, worrying about what is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it dry? Is it flooding? Whatever it is. And when I look at that reality of what was going on about Lawwell saying he purchased X, Y, and Z, and he spent a lot of money on that, and I agree with you. Yes, he did. The issue I think really is, what did he buy? I really don't see the big complaint about he didn't buy anything. He hasn't done the right, he hasn't done the right thing. I start looking at the numbers he gave us. I know there's a couple issues with what he said that I have a problem with, but I'm looking at all this money that they spent, and yeah, they screwed it up, man. They really did. They bought the wrong people. And did it cost us this year? The answer is yes. Did we not invest? The answer is, well, maybe a little bit. I mean, people use the term downsizing, and to be honest with you, I don't like the term downsizing. But when you look at the numbers that were released, we did spend less on players this year versus the year before. So, I mean, you put all that together, if he had purchased the correct people, it would have been a lot better. We'd be in a lot better position. The same way